support. Okay, I have one person down here.
Yeah. My main concern here is the monopolization issue by Rogers, Bell, etc. And I'm wondering if I'm looking at that issue, and I'm also looking at the issue of public access for everyone in Canada, and like really for freedom of speech, what we need is diversity, competition in the marketplace, not two companies controlling everything. And I wanted to get your comments particularly on what the attempt to provide access to people way up in the north would do to the free market or the private sector, and how it would affect the competition in the marketplace.
Right now, when it comes down to competition, everything's been kind of separated into different groups. So, so as to be able to create some kind of infrastructure. Up north, you've got, I think, still Northern Telecom, and I believe also Persona on the cable side. The only way to realistically go after this is to do one of two ways. Either invest in these companies to add more footprint, and then from there ensure that the legislation's in place and regulations are in place to ensure that they allow competition in. The alternative, it's been mentioned over in Toronto earlier this week, where you consider the possibilities of like some kind of a structural separation, where all of a sudden you have a provider in the background that isn't biased to its retail wing. So that would be one of two ways in my mind. And beyond investing in what's already there from an incumbent perspective, structural separation is one of the other ways, but this is not a short decision at that point.
The issue of competition is huge for two reasons. It's sort of, there's a real irony here. I mean, I feel like often in the House of Commons that it's only the socialists who are talking about protecting the free market, because the only way you have a free market is if you have competition, and the only way you have competition is if you have rules so that the big guys don't squeeze out the little folks, and that's what's happening. That's what, you know, that is one of the fundamental issues about throttling. They just hate the fact, they even say it, they hate the fact that they have any kind of competition at all. They don't want it. So from a public interest point of view, we have to, competition is good, diversity of voices is good. The other myth is that these free market giants created these markets themselves and so should be allowed to keep them for themselves. They are a construct of a whole whack of public policies that gave them a completely protected market, free from competition, so that they could grow.
Exactly.
And when they reached a point where they grew so much, then we said, well, okay, now you've been able to grow because public policy was in place to keep out competition, and so you could grow that market. Now you're going to have some of the smaller players, and that's when they start to, you know, whine. And it's the same in the broadcast industry, the broadcast side of it. It's the same on the telecoms, and that's again where we got to take this issue back. It's a public interest issue. We need the public interest protected, and that's why we have to engage our political leadership, and we have to engage each other to remind people that this is not just free market decisions in place.
A gentleman down here.
Sure. You were trying to talk about where to go from here and what are the, how to go in. Sorry, my name is Mike Gifford with Open Concept Consulting. We do web development. Is it? All right, we do web development and online campaign tools for nonprofits and unions and other groups. But one of the challenges is trying to go off and to take these ideas that are very, you know, they appeal to a certain geek crowd, and even in this geek crowd there's differences and there's people who don't quite understand things and heard different pieces of it. But it needs to be distilled down into something that people can grapple, and that people it can relate to people on a day-to-day basis, and that, if we were to take all the ideas that were presented here and boil them down into sort of issue or talking points, there would probably be at least 50 different talking points that could be discussed at length. That would take quite a lot of time to go off and to get them to a point where you could easily show them to people and express, have a conversation over dinner about, broadband internet, and then what are we going to do with the space in 2011 with or the dark fiber? What do we do with dark fiber? What do we do with all this other these things that people don't really understand? It has to be put into in terms and expressed consistently to people in a way that allows people to start talking about it and also talking to their politicians about it. But it does need to have an organization or a group of organizations working to make that possible, and groups like Support Our Internet are really useful to try and help that discussion. But there's so much more that needs to be done to take this conversation to the next step and to have forums, not just in places like this, but in people's houses and in communities and all across the country.
I swear this wasn't the setup, but we're actually SaveOurNet.ca right now. We're creating a town hall toolkit where it gives an outline that citizens can use just to do that, to have house parties, to have events in their community, and we also, in that package, will have a short 5-minute video that Matt Thompson, as some of you may know, narrates and gives a very short graphical explanation of a lot of these issues. So I encourage people to check the SaveOurNet.ca website in the next week or two, and we'll put it on there and have a house party, have a gathering.
What's the website, I guess?
SaveOurNet.ca.
So,